Welcome, everyone. This is the very first episode of my new series, Nick's Fire Reviews, or just Fire Reviews. They're basically shorter nerdcasts, so they're still going to be like a little lengthy, but not like, a 2 hour podcast like I would do with my co host, Mark the Truth. Now, Fire Reviews will mainly just be me. Mark will probably join me on a few that he sees once in a while. I basically want to do them for things that I want to talk about, but maybe Mark and I don't see together, or he doesn't really have an association to it, or I do. It's something that I like and I want to talk about, but he might not want to. And Mark will probably do his own versions of these once in a while too, for things that I don't care about or enjoy, but he does. So this is going to mainly just be me, and that's it. Either way, on this one, it is just myself, Nick Fire, and I'm here to talk about Borderlands. I wanted to start with this one because Mark doesn't know much about Borderlands, but I do, though it isn't my favorite series. I've played Borderlands 1 and 2, and I enjoyed playing it because from 2009 to 2012, Borderlands was like a phenomenon. It was this huge thing when I was in high school or middle school, high school, and even it was still even big till like 2014. But it was like this huge almost revolution because I remember everyone in school loving this series. And they loved it because of its unique world and its really out of the box wacky looking characters. But it was a series that I missed because when I was a kid, I could only get so many video games. So it was a series that I had to kind of put on the back burner for many years because I could only afford so much. And there was other things coming out that I would rather have. And even though they're not my favorite game series, I still enjoyed playing them when I eventually got to them much later. And I respect everything that it's done for the looter shooter genre that it like basically revolutionized and made a thing before Destiny and all the other ones that came after. Now, as for the film, it's getting not so great reviews, very bad reviews, actually. People are bombing it on Rotten Tomatoes, basically saying that it is the worst video game adaptation in the history of adaptations. However, even though I don't think it's a great film by any means, in fact, I feel it's a very average film, I don't think it's as bad as the press that it's getting online. And I'm not saying it's a good movie, but I'm just saying that it's not a bad movie either. It's very middling. It's a middle of the road film. It's one that you watch and, it's a popcorn flick. It's one that you sit down, you watch, you kind of zone out in it for an hour, 2 hours, and then that's really it. You move on with your life and you probably don't think about it again. And the main reason is because it's just, I don't know, outside of the visuals and the costume character design, even the CGI, I thought all of that was stellar. But at its core, from the creative story side of things, it's a very average team up movie with a lot of absolutely baffling creative choices. Now, for anybody who's listening to this that has never played the games or doesn't know anything about Borderlands, the basic premise of it is it's about a group of vault hunters that travel across a dangerous planet, Pandora. This is a very sci-fi series, but also in a sense very apocalyptic in a way. Even though I don't think it's ever really said that Pandora's been through an apocalypse, so I could be wrong. I don't know much about the lore of this series. But Pandora is basically this dangerous planet, and these vault hunters are like space pirates that are like mercenaries that travel across the galaxy, and they come to Pandora to find these specialized keys that unlock this hidden vault to discover lost secrets and treasures of an advanced civilization that are called the Iridians. However, the film completely changed the plot. And instead of just doing this, wacky team up film of all these, misfits of characters like people usually love to see going after this vault. Instead of just making it this fun movie about a group of characters, they decided to change it to a hero's journey adventure flick. And they overcomplicated a pretty simple premise for what could have been a very fun action film. So at this point, I'm going to get into the spoilers and the story. But like I said, they're spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film yet, I would advise that you don't listen to this unless you don't care. If you don't care, which if you're not a Borderlands fan, I don't see why anybody would actually care about this film. But if you do, if you want to go see it, I'd advise that you click off the video and come back later. Now, other than that, if you don't care, I'm going to dive into this film and let's get started. So the movie starts with Atlas. I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's first name, so I'm just going to call him Atlas. He's the head of his own company, Atlas, which is from the very first Borderlands video game. And he is looking for his daughter, another character from the video game that everybody loves named Tiny Tina. And he hires mercenaries and the Crimson Lance, which is like an army of mercs, I guess, to bring her back. Now, this was very different from the games off the bat, because in Borderlands 1, even though Atlas is in the game, they're like a forgotten about and abandoned company. I don't even believe they're still active in the universe yet. In this movie, they were making it so Atlas was still active, and there was this guy, Atlas, at the head of the corporation, which never existed in the games. Now, I don't mind this exactly because it's a movie. You can't just adapt a video game into a movie, especially a game like Borderlands, which is more about the gameplay than it really is the story. You have to kind of come up with some new ideas and some new concepts to get into with a film like this. And so when I saw Atlas introduced, I didn't exactly mind it. I was actually interested in it, and giving him this association with Tina, who's a fan favorite character, kind of caught my intrigue. I wasn't exactly sure how I felt about it, but I was interested in exploring Atlas as a company since the video games never did. But then, unfortunately, as the film went on, I realized, oh, this barely served a purpose and wasn't even a good plot. But we'll get into that. So Atlas is going around. He's hiring mercs. He's hired this Crimson Army. And he hires this merc, Lilith, who's considered to be special, though nobody ever really explains why until much later. But Lilith is the main character of this film, and she's another fan favorite character from the games. But Atlas hires her to help find Tina after another hire, Roland, has turned his back on the Crimson Army and kidnapped her. Now, I like Roland in the games too. He's another character you get to play as from the very first game. But they changed him completely personality-wise into more of a joke. And of course, he has to be a joke because he's played by Kevin Hart. Now, I don't have a problem with Kevin Hart, but not in a film like this. He's far too distracting being in something like this. You don't see the character of Roland. You see the character of Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart, of course, is playing Kevin Hart. So I don't like when actors just play themselves in movies. And again, he's nothing like the character of Roland from the game. So it just, I don't know, it just adds this layer of like namesake, I suppose, for the film instead of actually focusing on telling a good story and getting the right actor. They just kind of shove a guy in there to throw it on the poster. And I didn't like that. Lilith, on the other hand, is played by Cate Blanchett, who's an amazing actress. And I actually thought she was one of the better parts of the film. So at least there was that to help get you through. Now, Lilith, she goes back to the planet of Pandora, which we find out is her childhood home. And she goes to rescue Tina, but before that comes across a mouthy robot, Claptrap, who guides her to Tina's location. Now, Claptrap is pretty much the face of the series. He's just this wacky little funny robot guy, kind of like an R2-D2 that can talk, but just is really annoying. But everybody loves Claptrap. We all love him. If you've played the game, even if you haven't played the game, you probably do love him as long as you know who he is. Even though I liked him in the film and I thought he actually was the best part of it, he's played by Jack Black. And again, it's kind of the same issue that I had with Kevin Hart. Like, why did Jack Black have to play this character? It felt so unnecessary. Like, even though he did a good job, his voice was just a little off. And it's like, why couldn't you just use the voice actor from the video games? It's a voice actor. It's not, he didn't actually have to be on set to play this. So it's very strange. I don't know why they didn't just use the voice actor from the games. He does an amazing job. He does a better job than Jack Black. Again, kind of just to me seems like they're trying to throw Jack Black's name on the poster next to Kevin Hart to get those Jumanji fans to come see this. But they're not going to because they don't know what the hell this is. And personally, I think they've done a horrible job of promoting this movie because I've talked to people at work about it and they don't even know what the hell it is or didn't even know it was coming out, which is just sad. However, in the beginning of this film, I did like the callbacks to Borderlands 1, like in the scenery. And I like the inclusion of the bus driver who narrates the story of the games. That was a really cool, like, little Easter egg for the people who have played the games and are fans. So because of Claptrap and the location he revealed, Lilith finds Tina, and she discovers that Tina is actually running from her father with Roland's help and her psycho buddy Krieg. And basically it's because Atlas, her father, only wants her back because he created her in a lab using a key and Iridian blood, making her the only one able to open the vault. And he wants her back so he can open the vault and gain unlimited knowledge and power. Now, I didn't exactly have a problem with this, but I could see like hardcore Borderlands fans not liking this because it's another strange choice. Like in the games, anybody can open the vault as long as they have all the keys. In this, though, they're saying only a daughter of Iridian or someone of Iridian blood can open this vault. That's not how it was in the game, but I'm not going to be too mad about it because, again, it's a movie and it was kind of character building. So I didn't exactly mind it, but I could see people not liking this. So after finding this out, Lilith basically tags along with Tina and the gang, and they fight through the Crimson Army. They fight through this giant beast that's called a Thresher Maw, and they eventually make their way to Sanctuary, which is a city of like outlaws. And I remember it from Borderlands 2, and I remember it being a pretty cool place. At Sanctuary, they meet Mad Moxie, who is a character that knew Lilith's mother, and we discover that she has an issue with her mother, like Lilith does, because her mother abandoned her when she was a child, and she never saw her again, so she kind of feels that her mother didn't care about her. Moxie kind of reveals it's because she's special, but doesn't exactly tell her why. But I really liked Moxie. Moxie is one of the best characters in Borderlands. She's another really iconic character, kind of like a Harley Quinn looking character, but smarter and a lot more conniving than that. She kind of runs a band of outlaws, and she's cool. And who I don't know who the actress was that played her, but they looked great. They sounded great. She was one of the better parts of the film. So Moxie guides Lilith and the gang to another woman, the woman who Lilith's mother left her with, Dr. Patricia Tanis, a scientist who abandoned Lilith because of her obsession with opening the vault. Tanis is another character from the game, and she's kind of the one that you get the major quests from, and kind of the reason you're looking for the vault keys in the first place. She's trying to like organize this group to find them before Atlas does, or not Atlas in the game, but before the Crimson Army does in the game. And here it's, so Atlas doesn't. I didn't really ever think much of that character in general. In this film, she's a lot older than the one from the game because she's played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And even though the age didn't bother me, I didn't really care about that. I just feel like, again, Curtis, she honestly didn't add anything to this role. She was kind of just there. She had no presence in the movie. And it was like one of those roles that like anybody could have played it. So I don't know. It's just fitting more actors in to just have namesake and throw it up on a poster, like I said earlier. So now Patricia Tanis, our little doctor here, she informs the gang that they need a second key. Tina isn't enough. She needs an actual key to open this vault. And they basically go on another adventure. They fight through these bloodshot psychos. Now, psychos are just these insane people that wear masks and like gas masks and They're literally just insane, and they light each other on fire. They have these, scary looking dogs. They're just absolutely insane people that live on Pandora. And they find bloodshot ones, which are supposedly the worst kind of psycho. I don't remember these from the game, so I don't even know if this is a thing or something that they just made up for the film. But Lilith and the gang basically avoid fighting these psychos by using Claptrap as a distraction. And Lilith finds the second key because it's like calling to her. And it was, this is the first time where I kind of realized, oh, okay, so something's wrong with Tina, because the thing wasn't calling to her, it was calling to Lilith. And if you know anything about the games, Lilith is a siren. She is special because she has the Iridian blood. She's a daughter of it. I believe that's why she has powers in the game. And she's just super powerful. But in this, she doesn't know that yet. That's why I said it's kind of like a hero's journey, because she's discovering her powers throughout the film. But they did a really, really poor job of representing that. I feel like they should have showed her unlocking more of her powers throughout the movie, but she really doesn't till the end. So, like I said, Lilith finds the key, and the psychos, figure out what's going on. They attack them. Roland stays behind to try and stop the psychos and help his friends get away. They do, and Tina believes that she teleported the whole group away, but really it was the Lilith. You just didn't realize that at the time unless you played the games. The action here was really good. It was like kind of basic in a sense, though, because it was PG-13. And the director, Eli Roth, I can't understand why he made this movie PG-13, because it only hindered the film. The game is very rated M, or you could say like hard R. So it's just strange that he decided to go PG-13. Like, did he try and think kids were going to come see this? I can guarantee you kids don't give a shit about Borderlands. They don't care. Borderlands is more of like a 20, 30-year-old thing. So they should have made it hard R. They should have made it gorier. They should have did like the dirty humor. They should have humorized it more like the game. The game had all these things, yet the film, it had humor but didn't really lean into it much, and there was no blood. It was just strange. So after splitting up from Tina and the gang over a misunderstanding, Lilith discovers that inside Claptrap this entire time, when he views a certain picture in her childhood home, a message from her mother appears. And her mother somewhat explains that there's more to her than it seems, but doesn't like outright say it, which again is a really strange thing. Why didn't they just have her mother explain to her, like, you're a siren, you're a daughter of Iridia, you're the one that has the power to open this vault? They didn't do that. They didn't even show that in the film. It kind of just goes to a black screen, and then I guess you just have to assume Lilith figures this out from the very vague response that her mother gives her. I don't know. This whole plot here didn't really sit well with me at all. And while Lilith is out discovering this about herself, Tanis, Tina, and Krieg find the vault and they attempt to open it, but this is when Tina discovers she isn't a daughter of Iridia like she thought, or at least she was made to be one, but the experiment failed. Atlas was watching. He finds out now that, oh, my daughter actually isn't special. So he and his army arrive, and they decide basically, okay, I want Tina dead because she's a failure. I'll repurpose her and try and make a new one that works. This leads to Commander Knox, this very random character who is the leader of the Crimson Army that we get like nothing on. She suddenly has a change of heart after all this and is like, hey, I don't want you killing this young girl. I'm going to stop you. And then Atlas just vaporizes her instantly. Then Lilith appears. Roland actually appears before that and does nothing. Then Lilith appears and just suddenly, all of a sudden, knows how to use her siren powers, which is like, okay, way too much is happening here right now, and there's zero explanation for almost any of it. Lilith then reveals, obviously, that she is the daughter of Iridia. She's the one who can open the vault. Atlas basically tells her, okay, listen, if you open it, I won't hurt your friends, and I won't hurt Tina. Classic bad guy lying out his ass. Lilith is like, okay, I believe you. but like maybe not really. She opens the vault, which this was actually a really cool scene. Like this was one of the better scenes of the film. Like even CGI and visually, this was probably the best scene of the film, where she opens the vault and suddenly from opening this vault, it transforms her into the Firehawk, which is like her full power unlocks, I suppose. And yeah, like I said, it was a cool scene. She had these like flaming wings. It was really cool. And from that, she decided, okay, I don't have to listen to this guy anymore. Let me fuck him up. Because she uses her new powers to battle against Atlas and his entire army and help her friends. And after what seems like a defeat for Atlas, he is able to get his hands around Tina and basically threaten her life enough to where Lilith decides, okay, let's enter the vault. So Lilith, Atlas, and Tina enter the vault. Now, if you've played the games, you know that just getting to the vault is a pain because you have to fight these like Iridian guards, which were not even present whatsoever in this film. And not only that, but inside the vault is not knowledge or treasure, but a beast called the Destroyer that the Iridian people were trying to hide away because it could destroy the galaxy. In this film, the Destroyer's in there, and it ends up eating Atlas because of his, greed. He ends up getting eaten because of his greed. But Lilith and Tina just kind of like, okay, bye. They just like leave after he gets eaten. And then it goes to a scene at Sanctuary where they're all celebrating Atlas's defeat. And like fireworks are going off and they're all like, yeah, that was great. And then the movie just kind of ends there. Huh? Like, what? In the game, when you open that vault and the Destroyer comes out, like, you have to fight it. The entire group has to fight it. This was such an anticlimactic way to go out. I mean, there was a big battle at the end with Lilith and her friends and the army, but it wasn't that great. It would have been way cooler if they had to fight this Destroyer. I couldn't believe that the Destroyer just showed up for a second, ate Atlas, and then just, okay, well, bye. What was this? What was this ending? This was garbage. And if you hate the movie because of this ending, I could totally understand you. That's it. That was the film. So if you didn't like the sound of that, I wouldn't recommend you go see it. Like I said, for a video game adaptation, I didn't think it was horrible because at least visually they got it right. And even the action, like I said, was pretty good, though it could have been better leaning into that R rating like they should have. And it blows my mind that they didn't. But it wasn't a good movie. And you know what was something that I was really disappointed with? In the video games, what those games are really known for, I think more than anything, or at least in my mind, is the character intros. When a new character comes on screen in the games, it kind of cuts to like this crazy graphic showing them in like this unique art style with like their name. And underneath it, it'll say like, epic proportions of badassery or something underneath them. Like just this little funny quote that makes you laugh. This movie didn't have any of that. Where the fuck were the intros? Like that is to me Borderlands. That is a core essence of the games. And why wasn't this here in the movie? This would have made that movie feel so much more authentic and better and funnier. But they just completely ignored it for some basic hero's journey story because we got to figure out we are the chosen one and we have powers like every other fucking movie out there. That's what I don't understand. Why did we go with this? The entire story is pointless because Tiny Tina doesn't need this. Tiny Tina was a cool character because she was just some crazy little girl who loves blowing shit up. That's all she is. She could have been in the film. I have no problem with that. But why wasn't she just like a side character? I get Lilith being the main character because she's the siren and she has the powers. She's kind of the main character in the games in a sense. But the rest of the film, Atlas, he was a weak villain. He sucked. I don't even know who the actor was that played him, but anytime he was on screen, he did not command your attention. He was just there. It was like an eyesore almost anytime he was on. It wasn't interesting. The story of Tiny Tina thinking that she's a daughter of Iridia and not was never present in any of the games and just was strange. And then the whole hero's journey thing of Lilith, discovering she's special and then becoming this ultra powerful being in the end had no buildup at all. This story absolutely sucked. And the only thing that keeps this movie from being a bad film, though, in my opinion, is just the visuals, the action, and some of the humor was good, but just not as good as it could have been. Basically, this was it was a very average film. Like, on paper, it looked good, but in practice, it ended up not turning out like they wanted it to. But again, I'd say it was more disappointing than that it's a bad film. Even though the story compared to what it should have been sucks. Like, why didn't you just do a story of the Vault Hunters going across Pandora, running into all this crazy, wacky characters, all this hard R, gory action, and then them opening up the vault, fighting the Destroyer, blah, blah, blah. That's all the movie had to be. And it continues this trend that we're seeing with video game adaptations or just adaptations of anything like an anime or a cartoon, where a director changes the story too much. Now, I know it's a film. You have to change the story. The story can't be the exact same thing because I would argue, like with the Last of Us show, even though that story was exactly like the video game, very, very few things were different. It kind of made the show boring in a sense because it didn't offer anything new. So I don't mind when a director comes in with some new ideas or ways to kind of spice things up or improve things from the game story. But in this sense, where you completely change it and then the story that you add doesn't even, spice anything up, it doesn't add anything to the movie. Lilith, yeah, having the hero journey, that would have been cool. That should have been her story. However, her just unlocking all her powers at the end was just blah. Like, they should have showed her slowly doing it as the film progressed and her learning of her powers earlier in the film. So then, as it progresses, she's getting more powerful till she can open the vault. I don't know. And then all the other characters were very side charactery. The only one that really felt like it mattered was Lilith. Everybody else, like Roland, was just there. Like, if I was doing this movie, I would have had every character like have a reason for wanting to go after the vault, and all of them being like this misfit group, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy-ish, where they have to come together because Atlas is a bigger threat. And if they want the treasure that's in the vault, they have to band together to fight the corporate army. So I don't know. I don't know why they went with the story they did. It added absolutely nothing to the film. And it's also just unfortunate timing for this movie because a better and somewhat similar film in a sense, but a much better version of it just came out a few weeks ago, Deadpool and Wolverine. Go watch that instead, because if I had to recommend to you to go see this, I wouldn't. If you love Borderlands, I would say go see it. Other than that, if you're just mildly interested, I wouldn't go see it. I'd wait till it's on streaming. And it's one of those films that I think is probably going to do better on streaming because you're not really, I mean, you are paying for it, but not really. I think when more people get a chance to see this film, they'll say what I'm saying and agree with me more, where it's just a mid film. It's an average film. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just kind of something to watch if there's nothing else to do. And I think in that sense, it could end up being a good film if you just look at it as an action popcorn movie to keep you busy for an hour and 40 minutes. But if you're an actual fan of Borderlands, you're most likely, you're going to like parts of it, but you're not going to like most of it. And if you're a storyteller kind of person like I am, you're going to think this story is ass. But everything else around the story, for the most part, was good. Like I said, the visuals, costume design, some of the characters were good. Some of them, like Kevin Hart, just sucked. I don't know. It was a very average film for me. I wouldn't say it was bad. I wouldn't say it was good. I'd say it was right there in the middle. It's not one I want to go see again. But if you want to go see it or you have nothing else to do, sure. I'd say go see it. I wouldn't tell anybody to not go see it. But if you're interested. But if you're not interested or this is just something you're like, maybe I'll go see it. Don't go see it. Just go see Deadpool and Wolverine for like a second or third time instead. You'll have a much better time. And the last thing I really wanted to talk about here was that the most popular character besides Claptrap in the Borderlands video games is a character named Handsome Jack. He's a Joker-esque kind of corporate leader of this corporation called Hyperion. I don't understand why he wasn't in the film. Like, I get going with Atlas as the villain because they were present in the first game. Handsome Jack doesn't come into the games until the second. But you could have used this opportunity to like build up for a sequel. You could have maybe had him in one part of the movie or even like a post-credit scene building him up. Like, why was he just not in the movie at all? And why did you give Atlas like somewhat his story of having this like special daughter? And I don't know. It was weird. There were a lot of very strange creative choices in this film. And I don't think a lot of people are liking it, and that's probably why it's getting review bombed. But I do think it is getting review bombed. I think some of the criticism of it is just not really fair, or even just, some of it's just absurdly bad. Like, the movie's not a 1 out of 10 stars. If I had to rate it, I'd say it's probably like a 5. Maybe a 4 if you're very passionate about Borderlands. But I don't like rating movies and stuff. I like to call it good, average, great, whatever. To me, this was an average film. And I don't get why they dropped the ball with Handsome Jack, because he's a great character and he could have helped this movie a lot, or at least built excitement for a sequel. If this film even gets a sequel, because I don't know, the box office numbers aren't looking too hot and they're already kind of predicting it's going to be a flop. So I doubt we're going to get a sequel. I would kind of like to see a sequel just to see how they would do Handsome Jack, but I don't think it's going to get one. It probably didn't. It doesn't really deserve one either. So I doubt Lionsgate is going to give it a shot. This was just a film that was made at the wrong time. If this was made in like 2014, 2015 and done better, it could have been a major hit, and it probably would have been a major hit. But waiting till now, 2024, where the Borderlands IP is basically dead as a doornail, and on top of it, changing the story so drastically that hardcore Borderlands fans aren't even going to recognize what the hell's going on here. I don't know why we continue to let directors and writers fuck with the core essence of the story of a video game. I don't understand why we keep letting that happen. Stick to the core, expand on it. Don't change it and fuck it up. I don't understand what's going on. They did it with Halo too. But Halo was even worse. At least this is somewhat watchable. Halo is unwatchable, in my opinion. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts on Borderlands. It's a very mid film. Wasn't great. I don't like how video game adaptations have been done for the most part. Even Fallout, I kind of have some problems with. Maybe I'll get to that at some point. But I didn't like the actors who just felt forced into it. I didn't like the story. The only thing I liked was the visuals and the costume design and the action. So if you're here to go see an action movie, sure, go ahead. If you don't care, I wouldn't recommend this one, guys. And that has been my first episode of Nick's Fire Reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, and subscribe if you did. It would really help us out. You can check out our other socials at FireTruthCast and at FireTruthCast Gaming to go see our other channel, which I'm starting to build up on. I'm going to start doing some reviews and retrospectives on that next. So I hope you guys continue to enjoy our content. And yeah, with Borderlands, maybe next time, guys. Maybe next time. Till then, I'll see you guys on the next one.